Hi, my name is Evan Hoffmann. I'll be helping you guys learn some cultural aspects of Denmark. Without further ado, let's get started. Just a brief overview here. I will be covering the political atmosphere and infrastructure first to give a nice background. Then I will dive into the uncertainty avoidance and individualism versus collectivism debate there. Some of the Hofstede dimensions that'll kind of tie in with that political atmosphere and infrastructure firsthand. So the political progression and the current infrastructure here, I start from World War I because I see a lot of the decisions they make at this time period tie over to some of the traits of the Hofstede dimensions that we had mentioned prior to. So World War I, it shows that Denmark chooses to remain neutral. They want to keep themselves out of the fight or the foreign affair, if you could say. They signed a no aggression pact with Nazi Germany in the gap between the two world wars. Like I said, to keep kind of an individualist point of view here to just kind of keep themselves out of the trouble. Now, World War II, Denmark is invaded by Nazi Germany without military resistance from their country. However, as you can see here, as a collective nation, they were not as held together as you may think. So when the Danish Jews, which were being persecuted by the Nazis, of course, they were noted to escape to the neighboring Nazi-free Sweden, showing a lot of that individualistic values there. Now, fast forward to today, Denmark is a robust democracy with regular, free, and fair elections, pulling from the freedomhouse.org 2017 metric. Also, their infrastructure. It's a very solid infrastructure. They are very advanced socially and economically. The first bullet point there. First country globally to declare transsexuality no longer a mental health disorder. That is very, very progressive and good news for the people there, as they are very leaning on those issues. 19th most complex economy according to the Economic Complexity Index, the ECI. That's a very important stat there, as they are a smaller company, but they do tend to find themselves making the best of the market around them. Now, the one issue with Denmark, as we can see, just as a migrant crisis, the due process limitations shown around 2011 up until modern day. They've struggled to uphold fundamental freedoms for asylum seekers, for immigrants, other newcomers who are looking to migrate in. It's just a lot of the family reunification that's been holding them back in the due process, like I said, just giving a lot of those asylum seekers and immigrants trouble. Other than that, that's really the only downside to it. Now, moving on to the uncertainty avoidance. First, we'll define it, or just kind of give it a little touch there. It refers to a society's discomfort with uncertainty, preferring predictability and stability. However, Denmark, they do score low with this index, so they do prefer the low structure level. They have little beliefs or institutions to avoid this uncertainty and take on these new thoughts with a grain of salt. They move very well with it. They thrive on this. So if one was to work with these people or manage these people, it would be best to not impose much restrictions on them, help them to learn at their own pace, and once they do come across conflicts or problems, they are very forthcoming with such, and do find themselves coming to the aids of others to find those solutions. So lastly, individualism versus collectivism. Denmark scores very high with the 74 in individualism, thus inferring the ability to take care of oneself is very high, rather than the dependence of relying on a group, the collectivism viewpoint there. They prefer a looser social framework. So as business partners, it is relatively easy to begin business. There's not a need, per se, to create relationships, so it is best to keep the small talk at a minimum and be very direct with them. This just kind of shows a lot of the individualistic nature we have seen before. The foreign policy of staying home and not meddling with others' affairs, and just that sort of sense. Now, that is the end of my presentation. I appreciate you guys listening, and I await your questions. Thank you.